Good morning and welcome to our faith story for this week. This morning we're talking to Sue Hunstad, who's been a member of our congregation for 55 years. And she spent most of her life working with youth and children. She was lucky enough to go on the youth mission trip to Estes Park. And 21 years ago got to go to Africa with our mission trip where we started the Kikatiti School. Her life has been about youth and family and being a part of their lives. So welcome, Sue, and thank you for being here. You've been involved with youth for our Saviors and throughout your life. How would you say that's shaped your faith?
Oh, the thoughts that the smallest children have, the innocence that they have, the hopefulness when I worked with special needs children and didn't think that God was even in their life, and to find out a couple years later they're running through the barn chasing the cats. So I know God is there and God's working with the kids.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I'm sure your faith and your strength helped those families as well.
Well, hopefully I left a good impression with them and knew that there was always hope.
Always hope. I'm sure you did. So, you mentioned earlier you have 5 kids.
Yes.
Can you speak about that?
Sure. We have 5 children. The first 3 are our birth children, and the next 2 are an adopted child and a foster child. So we've been adoptive parents, foster parents also.
That's so nice. And what prompted you to do that? Just working with families?
Yes. There was a job that I had at Washington Elementary as an aide, and there was this young man that was there who was a foster child. Oh. And he was there because of a lot of behavioral issues or whatever, but I don't even remember his name. But he was one of the ones that kind of pushed me into thinking of foster care. And that's kind of at about the same point we were looking at adoption.
Nice. So you were lucky enough to go on a youth trip to Estes Park. Is there anything that you remember about that made it special?
I think the whole feeling of the music that was there. Oh. I went with Annette Haynes and Bob Oppitz and Gary Mackey, and I think there may have been one other one, but that's long time ago. I'm not remembering. But the music from Freddie Langston, the fun concerts the kids had, the dancing and watching, the excitement from them. And I think the end of it was coming down from the mountain, having something in our hearts to share.
Nice.
So it was very, very special.
And did you take a bus out there?
Yes.
Oh, and those bus trips are,
you
learn so much.
Oh, they're crazy.
You learn so much. Right?
Yeah, we slept in church basements, and on one night on the way out, and then one night on the way back. But yeah, we had a wonderful time.
What a wonderful trip. Yeah. And you also were lucky enough to go to Africa for the mission trip there that was 21 years ago. What can you tell us about that?
Oh, golly. That was a life experience that I sometimes have to pinch myself. This little farm girl from Lake Crystal in the middle of Africa looking at the mountains and all of the families that were there. I think one of the main things, we were there with Doug Dibsetter, who was from church here, the missionary there, and they were the ones that helped organize. I think there was maybe 20 of us that went.
Was this the start of Kikatiti?
This was the very start of Kikatiti.
And you were there to start building a school?
The school was already built. We were there. At that point, there were 4 classrooms and an office in the middle. We were there to paint. We painted walls. We painted blackboards. Did that kind of work.
And this was before they had the dorms, because
correct. There were no dorms there at that point.
This was the very beginning.
Yep.
And 20 is a good sized group.
It was.
To go and do that, but how exciting!
It was great.
What a trip.
I remember one of the highlights was that Doug painted the Africa on the office wall.
And he was such an artist.
Yeah, he had the shape of Africa, and then there were 4 handprints that went on it. And those 4 were 2 from our group. I think Becky from Cottonwood Church and Kayla Nesvold. I don't remember her married name now, but Kayla. And then on the other side was the bishop from
Sure.
Meru Diocese there, and then one of the students. And so we had our T-shirts, you know,
I
with
remember
Pamoja.
that.
And then
Yeah.
Pamoja means together. I had to really do some thinking to remember what that word meant.
Pamoja.
Pamoja
And that's
means,
on the T-shirts as well.
yes,
You know, I never realized what that word
and
meant.
that means together.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah,
I
so-
love, and 21 years ago, the start of that school, that it's still going
Yes.
strong.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's exciting.
It is.
And 20 people got that experience.
I think there are about that many of
I
us.
think there were. It was
Yeah.
a big group.
Yeah.
What can you tell me about your necklace?
Well, the first week we were in USA River, USA, USA River, and that's where Kikatiti School is sort of around, or, you know, in that community. And we were then missionaries. We were helpers, we were workers, we were there at the school. And then the second week, we were on a Serengeti trip, on safari. So then we became tourists. And the big five, the lion, the tiger, the elephant, I'm not sure, giraffe and rhino and all those, this was something I bought there to remind me of our trip.
And you got to see that?
Yes, we did.
Wow. I
So
love that.
besides the being helpful, we also
I
were
was gonna say.
entertained and
But, you know-
treasure that part of that country.
And 21 years ago, it wasn't often people traveled to Africa. And for, like you said, small town girl from Lake Crystal or just from New
Yep.
Ulm, when do you get to see
That's
and
right.
experience that, that culture? Because it is the culture.
That's right.
So,
And it was very exciting for me to be there too, because at that time I was president of the church here.
oh, wow.
And so when I got there, and you know, I'm my size, no one in Africa is my size. They walk 60 million miles a day, you know, da-da-da. Could take from that, but anyway, here I am, and of course, a large person are thought to be wealthy.
Oh, I
Well,
see.
that's not the truth. But then a female that is then a president of a church, I was treated like royalty. Now, this was very hard for me to accept. I'm thinking, this isn't the norm, and this isn't
Right.
necessary. But we did go while we were there to one of the pastors' homes, took a Jeep ride up the mountain and got to his home, and we stayed at his family, and they entertained us and fed us, and we slept there. I won't go into the snake story, but that's another thing. But during the church service, I was then sitting in the front of the church with the pastor and some of the other dignitaries of the church on a chair that looked like a throne. I'm like, oh, this is just not me. Not me at all.
No.
And I had to stand, and the church was packed with people, and had to give my greetings from myself, the organization, the church, the synod, the state, the government. I mean, all this was,
Yeah.
it was
Oh,
very
my
impressive.
Isn't that interesting? I
It is.
never would have thought that. And you probably didn't think that till you got there and all of a sudden it was happening.
Had no idea.
Oh my gosh, that's something. Well, you've certainly spent most of your life working with people, youth, children, helping them. Has there been a time in your life that you've really had to call on your faith for guidance?
Well, the first years of my work, I worked with Head Start, and I traveled through Brown County. The last 20 years of my working, I worked from Brown, Sibley, Watonwan, sometimes Le Sueur and Nicollet counties. So I spent a lot of time driving, a lot of windshield time. And as you know, Minnesota is not the best in the winter. And I think some of the things that just popped into my mind this morning were the driving and how my prayers would be there, that I would get home. And I believe one of the questions we looked at were, where do you pray most often? And I'm thinking, yes, probably in the car, but also in the garage. When I made it home,
Oh,
I would stop and give thanks that I had made it home from my safe trip.
that is a good lesson.
It
Because
was.
how many times do we pray when we're in crisis or we need
Yep.
help, and then it's resolved, on we go. But yeah, to stop and give thanks.
Yep.
Well, that's a wonderful way to end. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. And thank you for serving so many people in our area.
Thank you.